What's up guys, welcome back to the GU Patrol. As you can see, it is back here. Unfortunately, I'm here by myself this weekend. Rex is at Power Cruise for the weekend. I'm holding the fort down there for onsong performance, doing some tuning on track and stuff, so I've got no one to help me push this thing around, so unfortunately I can't get it inside this weekend, but that's okay. I thought, well, there's a bit of sunlight, I'll show you a look around what Whitey did. Really did want to try and get down to Whitey's and do a bit of a collaboration with him as an episode to go through sort of what he did with it, but unfortunately just didn't happen with time constraints. We're both just so freaking busy. So got it towed back today, but all the wiring's sorted. Whitey has done all of his job and it is looking great, looking amazing. All in here. He managed to get the ECU in the car, which is awesome. Inside there in the footwell, so you know everything's inside. We'll find a way to mount that, keep it up out of the way. This thing's sort of ready to rip. The only thing that he left out was the fuel pump wiring, which we've been through, being as we're not actually 100% certain what we're doing with the fuel system in this thing as of yet, because I'm still trying to hunt down a TB fuel pump hanger out of a GU so that we can hopefully go that way. It'd be a bit easier, but if we go back to plan A and end up putting the Commodore hanger in it, me and Rex can sort out the wiring for that little bit ourselves. That's not a big deal, but anyway, as you can see, super neat. He's wired our alternator stuff up here, which is awesome. Our high mount alternator kit is here from Marks. It's arrived, which is great. So we've got our Alt Relocation here, which came super fast, so big thanks to Marks for actually getting this to us. Surprised that it came before the actual patrol got back to us, so awesome that that's here. We also happen to receive a nice big box of goodies today as well, just in time. Not all for the patrol, but a lot of stuff that we were waiting on for the patrol, which is awesome. So we've got a nice box of goodies and some stuff to continue cracking along with this thing. Now, I'm not sure if I went through it in the last episode, just went through the stuff that we needed to complete a few things. I can't remember if I actually put that in the footage or not, or whether I just had it in my head. But originally, I had planned it to go from this steam port here, bring that up and tee that into this, but to try and find a T-piece, just a barbed T-piece with the reducer down to that, was pretty much impossible. It was really, really hard to find. So rather than tee it into this, which is your expansion hose for the expansion tank on the patrol, I went and just bought one of these trusty old things. So this should help a little bit as well, because although this fits really well, it is probably a little bit taut. It could afford to be a little bit longer, so having this in it's going to help there. I'll put it right up high, and I'll just put a fitting into that, and we'll have our steam port just come up to the top here, and that'll be simple as that. So that is a lot easier and cheaper than was trying to find a T-piece that was actually going to reduce down to that size and work. So that's that sorted. I've got a T-piece for the vacuum setup, which is on the way, which will sort that out. Apart from that, it's literally just our intake, which I've got there, and a fuel system. Voila guys, one high mount alt kit installed. This is the relocation they give you. The last one we did on a 6 litre, they gave us a relocation that actually relocated it to the very back, which is what all this was about. You saw that on the last episode. So I figured I could just put this at the back, but the distances between the holes on the coils, as you can see, these two coils are closer together, so the distances are actually different. They don't actually work, so that's the only place that it can go. So I don't know if I'm going to leave it there yet or not. I'm going to put this on and just see how it goes. Might end up just making a new bracket to relocate this to somewhere else, just because it's so close to this battery. But what they pretty much tell you to do is cut the reservoir bracket off of the lifting tabs, which you do there, and I've just painted that to clean it up, and then countersink these two existing holes, because they supply two Allen key headed bolts which are countersunk. So I just used a 13mm drill bit and drilled them out and countersunk them. That's worked perfectly, so I'm about to whack it on that bracket, whack the reservoir on, and just see what it looks like. Alright, bracket on there, and the reservoir should just... I need 2 hands for this. Oh, I might be able to get it. That might be too short, that hose. It's going to be too short. Alright, so I just pulled this off so I can put it up there. But, you know what? I actually don't mind it up there. It's not really in the way of that battery. It's not too close to the battery. Shouldn't really be in the way of anything. It's actually not a bad spot for it. So, I reckon it can stay. That's the Marks adapters high mount alt kit installed. And that's just going to make life a lot easier. We do have to reinstall the actual alternator bracket down the bottom, and they do supply new spaces to go where the alternator used to be in the bracket, and it gets installed with all 3 standard bolts again. And the reason being is that it has an idler, so you have to retain the idler that's in that bracket, so that's why it has to be remounted. But I'll do that on the hoist, because it's actually quite easy to get under there on the hoist. It's much more nice and serviceable having that alternator up there, way better than having it cramped down in that corner where it was. And obviously in a patrol, plenty of room to do so, so why the hell not? Like most things from Marks, it pretty much just bolted up, it was fine. So Good stuff. You know, we're not sponsored by Marks or anything, guys. In fact, we have had instances where they've been not a lot of help and we have had to modify a few things from them, but we do have to, I suppose, endorse good products as far as aftermarket products, the amount that they do and how well it all goes together. We do rate them quite highly. That's that, running out daylight, better get home, but just wanted to get that on today, and that's that. Cool beans. All right, guys, it's the next afternoon again, so time to spend a little bit more time on the old patrol, get a bit more done on it. So, might get our thing in here into this hose, get that ready to go, and might start getting our intake built. Alright guys, bits and bobs, but it's all progress, which is awesome, but it's getting late again, so I'm about to head off again. But what I did get done, I got our top radiator hose thing in, which now links up to our steam port down there with some Airflow 400 series hose, so that is the cooling system complete. Got our intake pipe sorted, that's how the intake's going to be at this stage. Should work fine for what we want to do. I got the intake air temp sensor in the intake pipe, used a little rubber grommet, just the intake air temp sensor out of the VX, so repurposed that. It's in there in the little grommet, and the sensor wire, which Sam wired in, where did I put it? Here it is. Look at that. Bloop. Pretty sure that's it. Yeah, that's it. And that one down there is our water temp for the head, which I still have to put in, but that's going to be our intake air temp. It just goes straight there like that. Boom boom, simple as that, easy as. So small progress. I was thinking about putting that idler back on that I talked about just before, but I really don't want to get on the gravel and do it. I'd rather just wait until it's inside. The only advantage that it presents is that it allows me to get a length for a belt ASAP so that I can get one, but again, I don't think it's really that big of a deal. I'll just wait. Righto guys, we're finally back on the patrol. Obviously for you guys it doesn't seem like long at all, but it actually has been like a week or two, so pretty much the fuel system is what held us up. So as these guys know, at the start of the build we were looking at doing the Commodore fuel pump hanger. I bought the adapter ring. It was all going to be well and good, but you know, Sam sort of advised when we did the wiring that we go to the patrol hanger instead and just put an aftermarket pump in it, which it does make a lot more sense. It's just that obviously the Commodore hanger assemblies are a lot more accessible and a lot cheaper, so that's the reason we were going down that route. But it made the wiring a bit harder, and actually doing a bit more digging since then, as far as getting the transfer pump to work and having everything integrated and working, it actually it would have been a lot more difficult to go that way. So what we ended up doing was just sticking to the idea of just putting the patrol hanger in there, which was a problem because it was really hard to find one. So couldn't find any from any wreckers. No wreckers wanted to split them. No wreckers wanted to do flipping anything with them. It was a real pain. We ended up just buying a new hanger from Marks Adapters. So we shopped around a few places, and it turned out that Marks was pretty much just about the cheapest place we could get one. They're pretty ludicrously expensive. They're not cheap, but it does just simplify the whole fuel system and allow us to get everything working way easier as far as working from factory. Anyway, so we ordered that pump hanger. It's on the way. I'll go through that when it gets here about the little niggly bits and getting it working, otherwise I'll end up repeating myself. But so we finally got the thing inside because it's due to be here any day now. We're just waiting for that. That's pretty much the last piece of the puzzle we're waiting for. While we've got it inside, I finished off the high mount alternator install and put the old bracket on there that Mark sends you the spaces for, so that you can put the old bracket, which includes this idler, which you do need to get the correct, I suppose, belt rotation on the crank pulley. So I chucked that on. At the moment, I just chucked the old belt tensioner on for now, just so that I could get a measurement on the belt, but I've ordered a brand new tensioner with a belt that's on the way, because always good to just chuck a brand new tensioner on them. So that's on the way. That should be here hopefully tomorrow. You saw in the last clip I completed this cooling system. I've just got to complete the power steering system as well. Seeing we've got the intake built with our intake air temp sensor in there, which is awesome. So we're waiting on this hanger from Marks Adapters. In this hanger we are going to mount a genuine TI, which is Walbro 255 fuel pump. So this is more than enough fuel for our LS1, a very mildly cammed LS1. That's never going to be an issue, so happy days there. So as far as regulating fuel pressure, we're going to be using one of these, so I'm going to let you guys in on a secret. This is a huge deal when it comes to parts. When we figured out about these things, it changed most of our builds and everything we do. So this is a WCF151. This is a 4-bar filter regulator. So it is a regulator and a filter in one. I'll show you how that works. And it's 4-bar, which is stock LS. It's a lot of stock things these days, stock newer injected cards, most of them run a 4-bar fuel pressure. And this is actually a replacement part for an Audi or VW Audi replacement part. So they're very easy to find and they're super cheap. They're not very expensive. So as you can see, we've got fuel comes in, filtered fuel that's regulated goes out, and then regulated fuel returns to whatever. And these are just EFI quick connect fittings, which is the same as you find on like a LS fuel rail. And places like Airflow and stuff do cheap little quick connect EFI to barb adapters, which is what we're using for this thing. So using one of these is a very cheap, easy setup. And as long as you put them somewhere where it's easy to access, they're super cheap and easy to find. You can carry a spare one with you wherever you go forward driving. These things are awesome. So that's a filter and regulator all in one. And that's going to complete the fuel system, which is happy days, easy as. So we'll be using these quick connect fittings. You can buy these from Airflow, Raceworks, just about everyone does them these days. These are just simple plastic quick connect to barb connectors. They're easy to work with, super simple, and they're really cheap. But you can buy them in things like quick connect to, you know, AN fittings. You can buy them in 90, like all sorts of different angles. I think you can even get them quick connect to orb fittings. So you can adapt your EFI quick connects, like on the rail and like on this filter reg, to just about anything you need to. But for this thing, because it is a four-wheel drive and the aim of the game is reliability, serviceability, and ease of access and parts, essentially. So we try and just use barbs as often as we can for things like this. You know, it's just a petrol four-wheel drive, really. So you don't want to have to be trying to source an AN fitting when you're in the middle of frickin' whoop-de-whoop and you can't get any sort of parts. You don't want to be trying to get a specialized fitting. So we try and just use barbs as much as we can. That way, if you're stuck, it's just a matter of replacing simple EFI fuel hose and hose clamps. You know, it makes it super simple. Not only that, but it keeps things cheap. So that's what we try and go for with these things. You know, it's not like it's a super high performance drift car or something where you particularly need braid and AN fittings all around the thing. That's not really the case. So in the interest of keeping things nice, cheap and easy and simple, this is what we use. And yeah, these things are freaking awesome. We use these in so many conversions now. They're great. I'm pretty sure Ryko does one as well, an equivalent. I can't remember what it is, but yeah, so they're a Cooper WCF151. And they're a nice cheap little filter reg. So that's the fuel system in a nutshell, but I'll show you more about this hanger when it gets here. Righto guys, so finally completed the vacuum circuit for the clutch and brake booster. So just cut the standard clutch booster line back. That is the stock LS brake booster line. And then this brake booster line just had to replace with a new bit of vacuum line. Apart from that, it all fit awesome. That was perfect. I've finished the power steering circuit, which is not as pretty as I'd like. The problem I had is because of where the reservoir gets relocated to, it's just too far enough away from the pump to use the standard hose, but it's just too close from the pump to get a bit of straight hose at a good radius where it's going to work in this size. So that's Airflow 500 series, which is going to be fine for power steering, but it still won't take a radius that tight, being 5'8", so it didn't quite work. So I had to pretty much make a long one and sort of route it sort of down here, out of the way. It won't be too bad because the intake sort of covers a lot of that stuff and it's out of the way of the belt and everything else. So as ugly as it looks, it's going to work fine. It's just really annoying that you can't get just a good radius down there. But without a molded piece like the standard ones are, they're actually molded, which is why they work. Pretty much won't get that sort of radius out of a bit of straight hose. So it is what it is. It's not too bad. Just not as pretty as I would have liked. Finally put the water temp sender back in this head, which I'd forgotten to put in before I went to wiring. So actually, one more thing that I nearly forgot that I have to do is find a solution for the rear coil on this side. So I might look at doing that now, actually. All right, guys, so this is my solution to the coil pack situation. So I've just mounted this one on top of the second one along. I turned it around so it's a bit closer. A little bit neater there, and that works, and it's heaps far away from there. So that's that sorted. Just made a lead for that. Rex is making that at the moment, and this is coming along. So our hanger actually just arrived before, just from Mark's Adapters. So we've got a new hanger here now, so we can pretty much get stuck into this fuel system and get it happening. Yeehaw! Look at that. Brand new hanger. It's got our level sender and everything all ready in there, and it all just plugs in and works. What more can you ask for? Righto guys, back into the patrol. Spent most of the day yesterday on it. Had Darcy helping out. Anyway, I tried to talk through a little bit of it yesterday as we were going, but the clip, I just babbled and it didn't really make any sense. So here I am explaining where we're up to again. So we've got our TB48 hanger in the tank, which Rex reminded me this morning we actually found when we unboxed it, one of the wires had broken off the solder joint on the bulkhead, which I totally forgot about. So the hanger's gonna actually have to come back out now, which is a pain. So what Sam had actually done, because the other day I was cursing Sam, I was trying to figure out where the hell the fuel pump wiring was. I sort of found the relay that he said was the relay for the fuel pump, but couldn't for the life of me figure out where the wiring went. The existing ZD fuel hanger only has 4 wires in the bulkhead and 4 wires in the plug that goes to the body loom. And I was like, oh, it's got to be missing the power to the pump. There's no pump in the hanger on the ZD, so that's got to be what's missing. Anyway, so I finally got onto Sam. Sam reckons he just put it in the kick panel, wired it to the existing power to the pump. And what I actually found was that even though the pin on the ZD hanger plug's only got 4 pins in it, the body loom side actually has all pins. All wires are there, which means that it would appear that the patrols, no matter what engine configuration or whatever, the body loom for that plug seems to be pretty well the same. So Sam had already wired it into the power to the pump up at the kick panel, so literally all we had to do was plug a new hanger in, and Bob's your auntie. Awesome. So the Walbro 255 literally plugs straight into the existing plug on the bottom side of the hanger. I'll show you that when we pull it out to fix the other issues. But aside from that, we've just put a new bit of fuel line in for the feed. So new fuel line and hose clamp and stuff, and the old return fitted straight over as well. And that just goes straight down to where the hard line was down there for the existing feed. So Bob's your auntie there, easy as. Obviously pulled the tanks out and got all the diesel out of them, flushed them out, so they're all ready to get petrol now. So then up the front here, we've got our new filter reg all mounted up. I'll go through that as soon as Rex has finished doing what he's doing with this. But you know, the belt that I got was the right size. It's awesome, fits perfectly. Got a brand new tensioner there, so it's all happy days here. So with having the fuel tanks pretty well sorted out and flushed out and ready to go, we were able to sort of complete putting the exhaust on. So Darcy did that for us. He was here helping as well, and he did all the exhaust, which is awesome. But we got back to the very final bit, which is this sort of muffler. And as you can see, it's meant to be a slip joint, and they give you a U-bolt to basically clamp that onto the tail end. And that is, you know, essentially just to get the right orientation, the way you want your dump pipe and everything else, like your tip and that. So it makes sense, but like the slits in this are very average. And it also seems really, really short to me, the way it goes on there. But anyway, we had a lot of trouble with it, and we ended up wrecking the U-bolt. So as you can see, what obviously happened was it pulled it down on all the slits until all the slits touched. That was not compressing anymore. We were trying to sort of just get the U-bolt to do up tight on it, and it wasn't even close, and it ended up wrecking the threads on the U-bolt. So two things, gonna have to modify that, cut some better slits in it so that it works better, try and get it to work better. And the other thing is we're just gonna have to get another U-bolt. So this is the one they supply. I'm gonna try and get one that's the same spacing so that we can utilize this bracket here again and just put another U-bolt on it and hopefully sort that out. That was a bit of a pain, but apart from that, super stoked with that exhaust, just like the last one we did. It's just the Marks bolt-in exhaust, and it all just bolts in really, really well. It fits really well, so we're stoked with it. All right, so here we have the Upfront fuel setup. So this is our filter regulator, which I've raved on about. I ended up putting the old filter mount back on this coil tower so that we had somewhere to mount it. My plan was to actually mount it with P-clamps so that it was a lot nicer, but unfortunately the P-clamps we've got are just too small to actually mount this. So unfortunately, zippy ties do the job for now, but you know, at least it's super accessible, really easy to get at. If you had to change this, you could do it in 5 minutes. It'd be super simple. So, but our feed line, the stock feed line comes up here. Unfortunately, there's no way for us to get it over this side of the steering arm. There's just no way with all the brake lines and everything there, so they had to stay on that side. It's a fair way from the pipes, especially where the soft line actually starts, but just to be safe anyway, we put a lot of this heat sleeving over the soft lines on the fuel lines there and just kept them sort of as far back and out of the way of the pipes as we could, but they should be fine. So feed comes up, it's 3/8. It just comes into the here, so that's just a 3/8, that's a 5/16, sorry. The filter reg is 5/16 quick connects. So we've got a 5/16 to 3/8 line, and that's the feed in. And then a 5/16 to 3/8, which goes back into the rail, which is a 3/8 to 3/8. So then the return out of the regulated side is a 5/16 to 5/16, and that's 5/16 line to the existing 5/16 return. So that's pretty much how the setup works. The ZD30 factory, the feed is a 3/8, and the return is a 5/16. So that's what we rolled with, and it meant we had to modify the fuel system very, very little. So it's essentially just the same fuel system. All we've done is swapped out the hanger and put an EFI pump in it and plugged that straight in, and it literally just plugged in. And then we put a filter reg up here which utilizes the factory return, and then it's deadhead into the LS rail just like a Commodore would be. So anyway, hopefully today goes like this. Pull the hanger out, fix that wire that needs to be fixed, put it back in, put the intake back on, fill the thing up with fluids, put the plug leads on, put some petrol in it, hit the key, tune it. So today's Thursday. This has already dragged on out for 2 weeks, longer than it should have because of that whole fuel system thing, but I am glad that we did go this way. It's going to be a lot better as far as just simplicity and serviceability and getting parts and things like that. So I am glad we've gone this way, but it has drawn out for 2 more weeks longer than it should have. So I really want to get it back to the owner this weekend. So today's Thursday. I want it tuned by the end of the day so that we can spend tomorrow tidying things up, and he can come get it on the weekend and it'll be happy days. So let's get it. All right, so you can see here I've got this hanger back out. This is the wire that was broken that I totally forgot about and forgot to mention to Darcy. So sorry, Darcy, for having to undo a lot of your work. But here it is. But as you can see, the Walbro 255 goes on there. It didn't come with any submersible fuel line, so we had to get some submersible fuel line. Luckily we keep stock of it, but normally they should, but they didn't, which is weird, but anyway. And the factory plug that's on this hanger already, just plugs straight into the wheelbarrow, and it is the same orientation as that plug. So didn't even have to use it, didn't have to do any wiring, just plug straight in, on it goes. Easy as that. How bloody simple. So just gotta try and resolder this to there, and then that should all work. That is the switch, I'm pretty sure, for the transfer pump. So it's pretty important for that to be working. So yeah, we'll sort that out.
I'll see him fuck that turbo timer off. I wonder why the ignition wasn't switching off then.
I'm pretty sure we'll have a look. I'm pretty sure those turbo timers should just be like an interruption, like a plug and play thing. We should be able just to pull it out. We'll have a look. Get that turbo timer out of there. But anyway, we've got fuel in this thing. I put 40 litres in the main tank, 20 litres in the sub so that we can test the transfer, make sure everything's working. But apart from that, we are good to go. Kicker in the guts. Alright, so we confirmed with the timing light that we've got spark, so we're actually pretty sure that I've plumbed the filter reg the wrong way around. I'm pretty sure it's meant to come in on the outside fitting, and I reckon the regulator, the return, is meant to go out the center. We'll change that around and hopefully that should be the problem. Alright, sounds like that was definitely the problem. There we go, straight away, eh? Righto, so everything seems to be working pretty well. We have got some issues with the O2 sensors doing weird stuff, but we checked, it seems to not be an issue with either bank. So we're wondering if maybe the O2 sensors have been plugged in the wrong way around, which is a easy mistake to make. But the only weird thing is that while this was running, our power steering fluid was about, I had topped it up and it was about halfway up while it was running and everything was fine. As soon as Rex turned it off, it just all flooded back into the reservoir and overflowed the reservoir, which is really freaking strange. So I don't quite understand what the hell's going on there or why it did that. So that's something I'm gonna have to look into. It was just a strange thing to happen. Strange issue. Apart from that power steering overflowing, doesn't appear to be any leaks. Doesn't appear to be leaking anything, which is always good.
Just had a bunch of air in the system.
Yeah, here we are. It's
still coming up.
It's coming up slowly. Doesn't seem to be as bad though. Seems to have stopped coming up there. So yeah, maybe it was just some air in the actual steering box or something. Not sure. It seems to be pretty happy there though. Alright, so I managed to spread a U-bolt that's going to work and open up their slots and made a few more of our own so that this should actually pull down tight on the exhaust. So we'll try this again. It does sound a lot better with that muffler, I reckon. Just do a quick degrease of the engine bay, considering we got so many bloody fluids and crap everywhere while we're setting everything up. And so quick wash down and then we're ready to hit the rollers, see what she can do. Alright, so we were right in that the turbo timer was just like an interruption and a patch loom, so that you can straight up just unplug it, plug it all back in and it goes. So
in the bin with you.
now the turbo timer can go directly to the bin. Do not pass go, do not collect $200. Pretty stoked with this thing. I hope this dyno session goes alright because I'm pretty happy with this conversion. I'm so stoked with it that I sort of wish it was mine. I would really love to get hold of like a ZD auto with a binned motor and just do this exact conversion, but with an RE4. RE4 should be, with valve body upgrade and a few other things, and a controller should be fine for an aspirated LS, and I reckon it'd just be a really cool little conversion. But anyway, it does look like it was made to be there, and I'm pretty bloody stoked about this whole thing. Alright guys, been a bit of an afternoon. This is where we've ended up, just a smidge over 300 wheel, which is an awesome result for this little cam. As you can see, the torque curve's fairly flat, which is, you know, pretty much ideal. It's pretty well what you want in a four-wheel drive. So stoked with that. Apart from that, it's not leaking anything. It's dripping a little bit of fluid from where the clutch sleeve is, which we're pretty sure is just left over from bleeding the clutch. Don't think that's anything to worry about because the clutch hasn't been a problem the whole time. And it seems to be stopping and drying up. Apart from that, we're freaking ace. This thing's coming along great. Should be ready to go. Tomorrow we got our boy Raymond coming to gas up the AC for us now that it's complete and the car's running. So we'll see him tomorrow. And we should be getting this thing ready to go home tomorrow afternoon with working AC and everything else. So we'll tune back in. Alright guys, so we had the AC gassed up this morning. So we're just trying to sort out the tune as far as getting it to idle up on the AC and everything else. As I spoke to you guys, Sam apparently did wire in the AC request back to the ECU so that the ECU can sort of know that the AC is on, and there are certain tables in the ECU which you can use to adjust the idle on the AC request and things like that. So we're just trying to work around that. The other thing is that we've left with this one, the factory condenser thermo fan is still there. So it still turns on when you request the AC like it would from factory. But obviously because Commodores and stuff, the way they work, when they request the AC, the thermos turn on to draw air through the condenser. So what we're having is that the thermos are turning on as well when we're requesting the AC, which I think could be part of the problem as well, is that it's really loading up the alternator as well as the AC pump loading up the engine as well. So anyway, just a little bit of fiddling around trying to get this to work from like it should from factory pretty much. You should be able to hit the AC button, shouldn't change much. Idle should pretty much recover and do everything it needs to do, and everything else should, you know, just work. So we're just sorting that out. Apart from that, Rex has pretty much sorted the ECU mounting and started putting the interior back together, and the thing is looking pretty good. So another thing we want to check on the dyno, which we've sort of set up, is Greg, the owner in this thing with the ZD, had this aftermarket cruise control set up in it. What we actually found when we started looking at the throttle cable, when we had to put a cable on this thing for the LS and stuff, we actually found that it's like an aftermarket standalone vacuum operated solenoid diaphragm thing. And essentially all it did was work off a vacuum reference from the ZD, which obviously just keeps the throttle, the pedal engaged. So this just goes through the firewall and attaches to the pedal from the backside. And this diaphragm obviously just, you can set it and it holds the pedal engaged to do whatever, just based on the vacuum reference. So the way we see it is that there's literally no reason that this wouldn't work in this configuration the same way it worked in the old configuration. So what we've done is hooked up the vacuum reference to the back of the manifold port on the LS, and Rex has worked out to put this back onto the pedal. Even though we've got our new pedal in there, it should be all good. So we're going to test it on the dyno, see if we can get this aftermarket cruise control setup working with the LS, so that literally everything that it came here with works when it leaves, which is, again, as I keep saying, the way conversions should be. This is probably a bit of a commodity. It's not really something we have to do, but we are sort of curious to see if it would work, because I mean, I don't even know if he uses it or whatever, or if he put it in there, if he just bought it like that, but it would be pretty cool to see it working again, as long as it works properly and is safe. Alright guys, so another development, which is a bit of a pain and a bit of a shame, because today's Friday and we're hoping for this to get picked up the weekend and go home and be enjoyed. It's already been dragged out, but we realised playing around with these AC settings, trying to get it to work, that it was leaking refrigerant. And we had a look, it's actually leaking from the compressor body, which is not something we've never seen before. We have seen this happen before, particularly when pumps and stuff sit for a long time. The actual seals in the pumps start to go. So given that this engine sat for 6 years, it's a pretty clear indication that that was the problem. And it's a shame, but there's not really any way we would have known without trying it. So, you know, it's not really a way we could foresee it. We could have maybe predicted that it was going to happen because we have seen it before, but without actually trying the pump, there's no way I could think that we would know. So it's just a pain that it's, you know, Friday and we're cutting it fine and something's gone wrong. So we're gonna have to get a new compressor, which is all good. We'll sort that out. But just in looking around and figuring that out, it appears that that pump is actually quite seized, which would explain a lot the issues that we're having with this AC idle situation. Because obviously when the clutch is engaging the pump, it's really loading it up because the pump's just about seized. So it's really loading this thing up, which is why nothing we're doing with this tune seems to be helping. So a pain that it's happened, but at least it sort of explains the issues we're having. So we'll go ahead and order a new AC pump, and unfortunately it's just gonna have to be another week, and Raymond's gonna have to come back out and gas it up again next week. So what do you do? How goes this thing? But not bad. Not bad. Not bad. Alright guys, so Rex just took the patrol just for a quick lap around the property to try and see if this cruise control is going to work, but it's not working. So obviously it's not getting a speed signal just from the speed sensor on the output shaft of the box or anything like that. And maybe it was getting its speed signal from the ECU or some other signal from the ECU, so it's not seeing something that it needs obviously to work because it's not working. So we'll investigate that a bit more. It's one of those things. It's a sort of a bit of a commodity. It wasn't really priced in for us to get it working, so if it's easy enough to get it working, we will. But we're not going to spend ages trying to set it up to work. Try and figure out what unit it actually is and see if we can get hold of some sort of instructions or information about it. Righto guys, we've got our new compressor. Raymond ordered that the other day and he was kind enough to run it out to us today so that we can slam it in and he can gas it up while it's here, and we can get this thing all done, and the owner's meant to pick it up this afternoon. So it's been a bit of a stressful time trying to make sure it all lines up, but Rex is getting the compressor in at the moment. So the way this setup is, as you probably remember when we put the engine together with all Mark's stuff on it, we sort of knew that it was going to be really hard to work with this compressor once it's in the car, and it is difficult. But Rex did manage to get the compressor out without too much trouble and without having to move too much stuff. So it is workable, it is serviceable, it is very tight, but it does work. So Rex has managed to sort that out. So we'll get this in, get it gassed up, make sure it all works this time, and then we should be right for this thing to go home. Righto guys, big girl's ready and rearing to go again. That new compressor's fixed all our issues. It was definitely the reason it was trying to die when the AC was coming on. It's so much better now with a decent pump on it.
I'm still gonna have to play with that this side.
Yeah, Rex has still got to sort that out obviously, but obviously the other day when we were trying to sort out the idle up, we were sort of just chasing our tails because it was stalling the engine so hard because of the condition of the pump that everything we were doing was pretty much going backwards anyway. So Rex has got to play with that a little bit. Rex is just doing its oil service now after it's been tuned and run a little bit. Oh, I meant to add in as well. After I left from the previous clips, Rex had a look at the aftermarket cruise control setup that's in the car, and it is missing like an input wire that's been cut, which we assume is for a speed signal or something. So it's just going to be a bit too much over our heads to try and get it working. So
no, that is what it is.
It is what it is.
Yeah, I looked up the wiring diagrams and stuff, and couldn't find the wire, and I realised it was the one that was being cut to about 20 mil long straight out of the unit.
Yeah, okay. Because from what I was talking to Sam about the other day when I went to see him, is that these have a speed signal that goes straight to the dash, and then it goes from the dash into the ZD30 ECU.
Right.
So that could have been spliced in from who knows where. So it's just one of those things where it's gonna be a lot of probably too much time and stuff for us to play around with it.
It's an auto sparky job.
Yeah, auto sparky job.
The vacuum is hooked up, and that's like all that's working, but that's a auto sparky.
It's there for if the owner wants to get it working later on, but for now it is what it is. So Rex, oil service, as well as now that it's been run and heat cycled a few times, we'll drop all the water out of the cooling system and actually put coolant back in it. And after that, we're ready to go. Anyway, guys, I got to head home and look after my son. And the owner, I believe he's on the way to pick this up now. I believe that's what was communicated, so I'm pretty sure he's coming to get it and take it home. So hope you've enjoyed the build. It dragged out a little bit with our fuel system issues trying to find a hanger, but at least we know for next time exactly where to go and what to do as far as GUs go. Super stoked with this conversion. We're really happy with it. I'm stoked with it. I'd love to get an auto and do one for myself, maybe one day, but just a really nice, neat conversion. So thanks for watching. As always, we'll see you on the next one. Peace out. See you. Bye.